Hello, so this is going to be a video on various military caps and things like that I have. This is obviously not helmets, I've already covered helmets in another video. And this isn't going to include any helmet covers, because I do have some helmet covers, except one, because it's an interesting one. So I'll probably get onto that one first, but this is mostly just like random caps and things. Not all of them are official military ones, some of them are just kind of civilian ones in camo stuff that's quite cool. So let's start off with the really weird cool thing. I'll need a helmet to demonstrate. So this is part of a Yugoslavian sniper suit, and this is basically a lightweight suit that you'd wear over the top of regular clothes. So if I put my head into it like this, it will look a bit weird. You know, my eyes aren't lined up really with the eye holes properly. But what this is meant to do, if I take it off, is go on top of a helmet. Now I don't actually have the Yugoslavian helmet that they used for most of the Cold War. But what I've got is a British Mark 6 helmet, which is, you know, similar in shape to a steel pot, so it should work well enough for this to demonstrate it. I mean, I have got like the US M1 style helmet as well, and the Soviet helmet from the Cold War. So, you know, any of those would probably work with this thing. But what you're meant to do is get the actual cover over the helmet, probably like that. Yeah, that looks about right. There are ways you can tie it to the helmet on the inside, but I won't bother with that for the video. Then you put the helmet on as usual. And this is my Mark 6 helmet, so I'm not going to try and struggle to do it up. But as you can see, what you basically then have is, when you had all your military gear on underneath, you'd have what's basically a scrim net over your face that you could probably weave stuff into. With the camo hood, again, it's not meant to work with this helmet, that's why it's not like the proper shape and fit for the helmet. But you can see pretty much how it's meant to work. So this is quite a weird thing, but obviously it does serve a purpose. The purpose was that you could have like these sniper suit overalls in this quite cool camo pattern. Reminds me of the old Soviet Russian World War II summer pattern, I think it was called. But it's sort of a yellowy colour, green and brown in quite big sort of DPM style stripes. Very effective camouflage actually if you're wearing it during the summer. I did a test of this in the winter one year and it worked surprisingly well in the winter despite all the colours not really looking like it. But a good piece of camo anyway, and these sniper suits still turn up on eBay, but obviously the top section is designed to be worn with a helmet. So let's get that out of the way. As I said, that's the only helmet cover type thing I'm showing because it's actually interesting. It's not just your standard camo helmet cover. Okay, so what's next? Let's just show this one next, a bit boring. It's a just bobble hat, I think it's from Primark, but just printed in kind of a woodland camo pattern. So obviously I'm sure you know how bobble hats work. If I can just get that bit facing forward like it should be doing, because it's gone inside now, I guess, because yeah, it's not folded up properly. But as I said, I'm sure you all know how bobble hats work. If I get that folded roughly right, is that on the outside now? Yep. So as you can see, it's in pretty much a standard green and brown woodland colours. The only thing of this is because it's a civilian thing, just in camo patterns, it's got no infrared reflectiveness on it. However, the camo is fairly good on it because it's sort of a light brown, a dark brown and green. So for a disruptive pattern it would work absolutely fine. Just be aware that if somebody's looking at you under infrared, this thing is going to glow because it's not a military one. Right, this is interesting. This is Chinese, I believe, and as I've spoken about this before, it's kind of like a hunting hood thing, where you do this up and tie it over your head, and then you've got a camo on it. So it goes on like that, then you tighten the drawstrings here, if I can demonstrate that easily enough on the video. There we go. And then what you get, probably ought to have done it a bit looser than that, is sort of a thing where you can see out of it, but you've got this kind of weird sort of thing like that. People are saying that's apparently this bit on it looks like a pointless pocket is actually to make your face a bit harder to see. I've used this in some of my camo tests and it does actually work surprisingly well. But as I said, as it's a hunting camo, it's a lot more environmentally specific. And again, if somebody's using an IR, sort of infrared, you know, flashlight with an infrared scope, you are going to glow under this, so you'd be a sitting duck. So it's actually better not to wear that if you are being looked at under IR. But there you go. Okay, let's go with some other caps. This was an old Czech one. I think it's just like very early Czech Republic, these. I think it might have been something like WZ93, the name of the camo. And this was designed so apparently if you, this wasn't like a field camo, this was so if you got dirt on your uniforms, this is like for mechanics and whatever else, it wouldn't really show up. So it's just a very standard kind of lightweight cap if you were using it as a mechanic with your overalls of the same camo pattern. So if you get them dirty, you don't have to wash them as often. Quite clever, really. A dirt camo. Now back to Czechoslovakia. We have got now the really cool infrared camo. Unlike the other things, this is one of those ones that has that pattern on where it's got the two kind of camos. Now, if I show you it close up to the camera, you might be able to see there's like that weird frog spawny kind of pattern that you can just about see. That's what you see under the infrared. So you see the kind of raindrop pattern with your regular eyes, but when you look at it under red, it's kind of like blotches and lines, which makes it really efficient. So this is kind of like that deer stalkery kind of hat where you've got the cap like that. You can either tie it like that to give you ear protection if it's cold, or you can just tie it up out of the way. I just like it kind of hanging down loosely, but you know, that protects your ears from insects and things as well biting you. It gives you a bit of warmth. It's got a really good stiff brim on this cap, unlike some of the other military caps I've got. So you know, this is a really good quality cap. It is good when it's cold, but as I said, it also works under infrared as well. So all in all, very good. This is just a Swiss Alpenflage cap. You can see in a couple of places on this it's been patched up, like there, because it was like one of those grade B second-hand ones, but it was very cheap. Again, not a brilliant brim in this, but good enough. Not non-adjustable, this one, you just buy one in roughly your head size, but this is a good lightweight cap. I like this for summer, because obviously it keeps the sun off of you, but it's fairly lightweight. You could obviously also, with all these caps, soak them in water before wearing them if you wanted to stay cool for longer. But yeah, that's just the Swiss Alpenflage style one. Okay, so now let's go back to a military cap. This is the only military cap I have. It's an East German officer's one. The badge is actually plastic on these, I guess, for them being cheap. It's quite a cool sort of ribbon thing on there, but it's never quite the right size, I've noticed, for these caps, where it always looks a bit out of place. But as you can see on the inside, NVA 57, which is either going to be a year or it's going to be the head size. I assume that's the head size. There's not a year of manufacture on this as far as I can see. It's got a cobweb in, so I don't really want to put it on, you know, too much, but yeah, you'd have that sort of like that on there. And that's the East German officer's cap. As I said, I don't really buy stuff like that because I don't like to imitate actual servicemen, because as I've said, I've never been in the military or anything like that. But the East German one is kind of interesting, I think, because when I was buying a lot of other East German militaria, these were very cheap at the time. And, you know, it's quite cool to have a Nazi style looking, even though it's not obviously a Nazi one, military cap for not very much money. So they're cool. Obviously the symbol is the GDR symbol, you know, very communist looking. Comrade. And then the last one I have is a replica, not very expensive replica, but a replica of the kind of US Civil War Confederate slouch caps, or whatever they were called, or cappies or nappy or something like that. Nappy hat, wasn't it called something like that, like NAPI? And so this is like one you'd wear, obviously. If it's got a bit crushed where it's been in a box for a while, but can I get that turned around the right way to wear it? There we go. So it looks a bit like a Smurf hat, doesn't it, these? But it's the weird like floppy hats they had, where you'd have that slouch to one side. I think this is one that was meant to look like Stonewall Jackson's one. It was a bit more trimmed up than the regular Confederate caps, but again, these are weird kind of hats. You know, I said this is a replica, it's not an original. But, you know, I thought it looked quite cool, and it was on eBay at one stage, so I thought, why not? You know, it's a weird sort of hat. I wouldn't bother getting more US Civil War style hats, but this one is a bit weird and interesting, because of the weird floppy bit they had on them. You know, I don't know how you design a hat to look like, kind of like a sock, but there you go. So, that's my things that aren't helmets, kind of weird military hats and headgear collection. I'm sure I've forgotten some stuff that's in my collection for this video, but hopefully you've enjoyed it regardless.